Hi, I'm Katharina Engelhardt, and welcome to the You Got This podcast, the podcast where we dive into career and leadership inspiration for women who are ready to take charge and lead with ease, confidence, and fun. In each episode, we explore strategies and stories designed to help you break through barriers, embrace your authentic self, and create the career you deserve. Whether it's through solo episodes packed with actionable insights or conversations with inspiring experts, this podcast is all about helping you to step up, to be seen, and to lead with impact. So, if you're ready to learn more about how to rise and unlock your full potential, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the You Got This podcast from Katharina Engelhardt. Today I've got a special guest with me. It's Tracey Newell, the powerhouse guest Tracey Newell. Tracey is a board member, former president of Informatica, a recognized executive coach helping women accelerate their careers. Her new book, Hers for the Taking, Your Path to the C-Suite and Beyond, is an inspiring playbook for women ready to own their ambition and break down barriers in leadership. Today, I think we are diving into why women aren't reaching the C-suite fast enough, and most importantly, how to change that, the mindset shifts needed to take up space and step into leadership, and how to build a powerful career strategy and network your way to the top. If you've ever felt stuck in middle management or unsure about how to step into executive leadership, this episode is for you. Tracey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Katarina. It's lovely to be here and an honor. So thank you so much.
Tracey, your career is nothing short of remarkable. You've led massive revenue growth in global tech companies, and now you're advocating for more women into executive roles. Let's start a little bit with your personal story. What inspired you to write Hers for the Taking? Is there a defining moment which you recall that made you realize women need this roadmap to leadership?
Well, for certain, I've been doing women's diversity work for over 30 years, and the issues that were coming up 25 years ago are still the same issues that I get asked about today. And so I just decided that enough is enough, reaching one person at a time or a dozen people at a time. It just wasn't having enough impact. So I decided to write this book to help as many women as possible around the globe to really reach their full potential.
It is a real global topic, isn't it? And you talk about that not enough women are stepping up for the top leadership roles. And why do you think it is? And what can we do in order to change that?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I won't share a ton of statistics and bore you with that, but even as of 2023 in the US, the Russell 3000, which is the largest 3,000 companies in the US, only 16% of the named executive officers are women. So 84 are not. Oh. So there's this huge opportunity for people listening to your podcast. And I love that you're doing this. And I love the title of your podcast. And we just need more women in the pipeline to step up earlier in their careers to reach for the stars. I hold myself up as an example. There's nothing special about me. I don't have a PhD. I don't have a master's. My parents were the first to go to college in their families. And so if I can help run companies or do board work, I honestly believe that your listeners can too. But we need them to step up earlier on in their careers to say, maybe in 10 or 15 years, that would be interesting to me.
I find this so important. And when you talk about how many women are on the board level in Germany, there's a saying there is more likelihood if you're called Thomas or Christian to be on a board than for women. So I think this is remarkable. I love how your book not only identifies the problem, because that's, the statistic, and you said the boring numbers tell us the truth, but you really provide real world strategies. And you emphasize the need for women to take charge of their career strategies, are really willing to go up. What are the biggest mindset shifts that are needed to stop playing small and really step into the power that we as women, we have it, haven't we?
Well, you use the right words. So stop playing small is a key component. to, realizing what you're capable of doing. And I think women play small for lots of reasons. I think there's just many social reasons that we're taught to think smaller and to sit in the back seat rather than step up and drive. But starting to think big, and I call it playing the long game in my book, thinking about, oftentimes when you're in your late 20s, your 30s, perhaps your early 40s, life can be a bit messy. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
you have responsibilities outside of your job. Perhaps there's a family, perhaps there's aging parents, whatever it might be. And you're still learning in your job. And so this idea of, would you want to run a company in 10 or 15 years may sound like a far reach, and it may sound overwhelming. It was for me. I was in my mid 30s when someone asked me, would you want to run sales for Cisco Systems at the time? And I was aghast. Me?
Me.
I don't have the skills. I have 2 young children. What are you talking about? And yet someone was asking me, would I do that? Which for the first time made me think about, well, I don't know, maybe I would. And 10 or 15 years from now, when my children are raised, maybe then I would. And so, I'm really hoping to encourage your followers and the readers to start thinking long term. Why wouldn't you do that? Why not? If not you, then who, is a question I ask quite a bit, because I really believe that there's a lot of potential in everyone that's on this call. But giving yourself the courage to say, I want to do this, even if it's a maybe attached, is the first step.
I like it because being stuck in the rush hour of your life is dangerous for women, isn't it? So they can be either too young, too mother, or too old. This is sometimes which then is the result that women get stuck in middle management and really struggle to break through. And I think in your book you're talking about 3 key strategies for career advancement. Can you share what they are for our listeners?
I might have to borrow that phrase, Katerina, of in the rush hour of your life. I like that a lot. It's so true. But yes, so 3 key strategies. If you're in middle management, or even if you're thinking about going into management, step 1 is think about setting a high bar for your team just for the next 12 months. So if you and your team accomplished this, whatever this is, would your boss be excited? Would your boss's boss be excited? Setting a North Star that will differentiate you and your team. That's step 1. The second, I've got a new title that I'd give to each of your readers. Become the CPS for your company or your function. And CPS stands for Chief Problem Solver. Become the chief problem solver for your company. So every company has problems, everyone. And the people that can figure out how to say, this is an issue and I'm going to solve for that issue, are the people that will get promoted over and over again. That's all that the C-suite is really doing. They're recognizing, hey, we've got this problem in the market. Let's bring a bunch of really smart people together to solve that problem. So in the book, I call it a founder's mindset, because founders of companies are natural problem solvers. They have to be. They start with no product, no employees, no revenue, and they build a company, they raise money. But anybody can be a problem solver. And so if you make that your brand, you will be promoted over and over again. And then the third item is, make sure you have a mentor. Make sure that there's someone that is helping you in your journey. I certainly had several that changed my life and my family's life. And so make sure you have at least one mentor, and they may change over time.
Yeah, I like this idea about having a mentor, and as well, having a kind of a sponsor. So really someone who's advocating you and really helping you to get into the key room. And this is, I observe that women, they go for mentoring, but they are not advocating to get real sponsors. How can women shift from this being coached and mentored to being like champion, to really get into the rooms? Do you have any ideas?
Yes, it's a great question, and they are different. And a lot of emphasis has been placed on having a strong mentor. You're right. If you don't have a mentor, you do need to get one. But mentors could be, professional coaches. It could be someone outside of the company that is just helping you and cares about you and is giving you honest feedback to move your career forward. A sponsor is someone usually within your company that has a high
Mm.
degree of influence that can help advocate for you to get you that special project or to put you into that next role. And so, as you think about finding a sponsor in the company, that is usually someone you look up to, usually at least two levels above where you are. Could be one, but two is better. Think about reaching out to that person to say, hey, I really look up to you. And could I get 20 minutes on your schedule? Most people will say yes for 20 minutes, and be clear to get some career advice. And then when you've got that meeting, now that you know what is your North Star, what do you really want to achieve, then you're going to share that with the sponsor to say, look, I'd really like to run finance for this organization, run engineering, run sales. I aspire to be you someday. And, what are some of my gaps? And please be honest. I think giving people permission to be honest is really important. More careers get ruined because your boss is afraid to hurt your feelings. So
Oh yeah.
when you have a mentor or sponsor, ask them, tell them, say, I used to say, I really want honest feedback, and it's hard to hurt my feelings. It can be done, but so please try to be constructive, but I really want to grow. And if you give people permission, that will help. You'll get better feedback. Um, but the most important thing is letting that person know your career goals, because when they know you want to do more than you're doing, they will look at you differently, they will watch you differently, and they'll try to bring opportunities to see what you're capable of achieving.
I like this advice because no one has like telepathic, powers to read your mind. So you need to tell people what you want, and you need to overcome your inner barriers, your imposter syndrome. We hear a lot of imposter syndrome. That's one reason why women are holding themselves back and not going for opportunities. What's your take on this one? How can we, as women, and I'm sure men have this as well, it's not a female topic only, but I think it's more relevant on the female side. How can we move from self-doubt to self-advocacy to really dare to reach out to this board member who could help us?
Imposter syndrome is very real, and you're right. Everyone has it, men and women, but there's countless studies to say women have it more so than men do. So I would say first and foremost, that inside voice who's saying you're not good enough, you can't do that, who do you think you are, or whatever that voice is saying. A friend of mine, Blair Christie, recently shared. She's featured in my book. I feature all sorts of amazing women that are doing board work and that made it to the C-suite, and they do advice to my younger self. And Blair said, bring your inside voice outside. In other words, whatever that message is that you're telling yourself, that inner voice, bring that to your mentor, bring that to your friend, bring that to your partner, and let them tell you if that's real or not. I think as women, we build our friends up, and yet what we tell ourselves is so mean and so much tougher than we would never say that to anyone. We would lift them up. So bring the inside voice outside is first and foremost, and then learn to tell different stories. I was offered a promotion at Cisco a couple of times to a vice president. I was running $1 billion business. I was in my 30s, and I kept saying no. And why was I saying no? Because in my head, I had decided to take this VP job. I would travel 80% of the time and never see my family again. And
Mm.
I laugh about it now because I've seen a lot of job requisitions, and there is no such thing as a job rec that says, if you take this job, you will never see your family again and you will travel 80. Like, it doesn't, there was a story in my head to talk me out of this opportunity because I was afraid. We need to learn to tell ourselves different stories, because when I did take the job, I learned that I had more responsibility and autonomy. I didn't have to travel 80% of the time. I had to travel when I thought it was important. And so tell ourselves different stories, I think, is important. And then finally, um, just get moving. Like the voice is chattering, everybody has it. The women in the Fortune
Tune it
500 have
down.
it. Just turn it down and just get moving. Thank you very much for the feedback. I'm going to go try this right now and see what happens. And so just get going, and the voice will quiet down when it realizes you're not listening anymore.
I like this advice. You know what's so funny? I have this inner voice as well, and sometimes it sounds like my mother. You know what I mean? Things which I picked up in the really childhood. And I was talking to my mother about this one. I said, you told me. And she said, no, that's not what I meant. I meant this and this. And I think that helped me a lot to get this out of the clutter. This imposter syndrome. And the other topic you were talking about, that with more responsibilities, people really fear that their private life is, getting away. It's not true, isn't it? I mean, this is something which really stops, women to step up and really go into executive roles. And I think this is one of the things why women are not positioning themselves as top candidates for leadership roles. But help me to understand. I mean, this chief problem solver was already one hint you gave us, how women and key elements of a strong leadership brand. But what's more? Do you have any advice or
No
insights
question.
you want to share?
Yeah, this fear of I'm giving up control of my personal life is very real. And so again, these are stories that we tell ourselves that we can't have a career and whatever else is important to you outside of your career. For many women, that's a family. There's a story I really like that I was working for a very senior gentleman who was running North America for Cisco. So we had about half the company reporting to him, and his one of his employees, I walked up and I said, "Hey, how are things going?" And she said, "I miss Max." And Max was 5. Max is her 5-year-old son. And I said, "I totally understand. I miss my kids." So my boss is overhearing all this, and he comes up and he says, "I don't understand. What's the problem? I have 4 kids." And I said, "Yeah, you're a man. You don't understand, and leave us alone." And he said, "No, I really don't understand. I mean, I'm providing for my kids. 3 are girls. They're going to think they can run companies because I do it, and they're going to have to work, and so on and so on." And so I kept thinking about it for 2 days, like why is he okay and we're not? And my aha was, it just came to me. He's chosen not to feel guilty. He's chosen to
Mm.
feel good about his choices. And so a week later, I'm driving my little girl to school, which almost never happened. And she said, "Mom, how come you don't come to school and bake the brownies? How come you don't come to school and read to us?" And I remembered that conversation, and I said, there's moms that stay home, and that's an amazing and critical job. And there's moms that work outside the home. And that's what I do, and I'm really good at my job. And because of that, we live where we live, and we can once in a while go on a vacation. And I forgot about the conversation. And a week later, my little girl is sitting with 2 other little 5-year-olds in the back of the car, and I hear her little voice go, "My mom has a really big job, and she's good at her job, and it's really important." And I just smiled and thought, they just want us to be happy. They just want us to
Yeah.
feel good about our choices. And so, I really believe, fast forward, that little girl's 27 years old. When if we don't talk every day, it's an odd day. And so, I really encourage women, take away the fear. It's fear that's holding us back.
Yeah.
It's not logistics. You can manage all of these things and have a great career.
Yeah, it's inner chatter as well. And what you did as well, you were paving already the next generation of female leaders because you normalized it. And it should be normal. It's in our head again, something we are making up ourselves, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
so frustrating. It's so frustrating. What I've observed as well, wonderful women running, big teams, making lots of profit, but they're not promoting themselves because they think it's normal and they're just doing a job. And this is why they're not seen as the next level of leaders, for the next C-suite, for example, because they just think, I'm doing a good job, someone will notice. What's your advice for positioning yourself for the C-suite or for the boardroom? How do you overcome this barrier of promoting yourself?
It's a great point. It's a common theme with women that for social reasons many are hesitant to, promote myself. I don't want to I'm bad at managing up. I hear that a lot. And
Mm,
yet and this belief that I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to be perfect. Perfectionism is another problem that many
perfectionism.
of us struggle with this. And so this idea that you're going to work hard and get noticed is, in most cases, is a myth. So you have to become comfortable at sharing, this is what I'm doing that's unique, and letting your boss know and letting your boss's boss know. So if you're already communicating, hey, I'd like to be you someday, then secondly, following up on, and this is what my team is driving this year. We really want to go from here to there. And here's our plan to do that, and getting some feedback, and then communicating progress along the way, and asking for feedback and really taking the feedback seriously. All of those things come together to show the leaders around you what you're capable of. So, but yeah, you can't just work hard. You have to work hard. You have to set some strategic goals and then tell people about it, how you're doing, and they want to learn from you. I this idea of managing up, I always struggled with it as a leader because I really wanted leaders that would come to me and say, "This, hey, there's a problem." Back to the chief problem solver. I had this problem in my group. I think you probably have this problem in all of your groups. And I brought this great group of people together. And this is what we've achieved in solving this problem. And it's a repeatable strategy. I loved those people because they were helping me to figure out how to make the whole company successful. So, get comfortable sharing what's working in your team, and give your team all the credit. You don't have to take any credit at all. People will know that who's making it happen.
I think you help people then as well to understand what's in it for them if they hire you, because if they have you on the team, they grow as well. I think that's the story as well behind all of this one.
Exactly.
Exactly. You wrote something about in your book about creating a legacy beyond corporate success. What do you
Mm.
mean this, or what does it mean to you?
Yeah. So the final, my book is broken into three parts, and the final third I called "Success to Significance," which actually isn't my term. It was written by a gentleman named Bob Buford about 30 years ago when he wrote his book Halftime. But success to significance, I think we spend so much time on our career and working in our career, and that's important. Obviously, it's been important to me, and it's certainly an area that I want to help as many women as I can to reach their potential. But success to significance really kind of hints at what else is important to you. That oftentimes, and as we're growing up, we're asked, "What do you want written on your tombstone?" And
Oh yeah.
and I would hate for someone to say she was really good at her job. I mean, that can be one aspect of who I am, but that doesn't define my identity. And so I really encourage the reader to think about, what are your priorities? I share a little bit about mine, but your priorities over the length of your life are more than your career. Your career can be one component. Some aspire to do board work someday. So I talk a little bit about what that looks like and how you can do that. But for many, they want to be involved in their community. For others, it's philanthropy.
Mm,
For some, it might be their faith. But what is it for you? And how do you work that in? You don't have to wait until you're retired to get there. How do you work that in a little bit throughout your life so that you're getting the right potential and spending time on understanding what's most important to you?
I like this, and specifically that you're saying it's not, after, once you're retired and then you start this real life, but that you weave it in consistently in your career, and that it's part of who you are and how you show
Part of
up. I think
who you
that's
are.
super important. It's
It's part of what
definitely a
makes you
part.
special. And so being intentional and living your best life, I think, is important.
I like this. I like this a lot. Many of my listeners, and I need to share this with you, are thinking, okay, I'm ready, but what's now the first step? How do I get started? If you could give one career acceleration advice to women aiming for leadership or higher leadership roles, what would this be?
Well, much like how we started, the
Mm.
first third of my book is really encouraging women to think about that big, giant, long term goal, playing the long game. And that takes some time and it definitely takes courage. And so as you think about, and I do tell people you can always change your mind. So if it sounds frightening to say, I want to be CFO of a company, you just by saying it and writing it down and socializing it with others will set you apart from your peers right now in the job that you're in today. So just getting clarity on what that big goal is. If 10 years from now you decide, okay, I've changed my mind, I don't want to be the CFO, no one's going to hold a gun to your head and say you have to do it. It's just, but it starts with really thinking big. And so I think that's the most important thing because it will start a chain of reaction of all of your decisions as you move forward over the next 10 years. It will change how people look at you, how they work with you, how they support you, how they sponsor you. Um, and as I said before, if you had told me when I was in my 20s, early 30s that I was going to be able to run a company, I would have laughed. I'd never met anyone that could do that. And yet I was lucky I had people that tapped me on the shoulder, that pushed me to go farther than I thought I could. And my hope and goal in Hers for the Taking is to tap the reader on the shoulder and say, you can do this.
And I really find your book inspiring, and I will put the title for all of your listeners today in the show notes, that you can really dive into the thoughts and a little bit into your head, Tracey, when it comes to leadership and how do you build your career, and what you just said, this, if you don't know where you're going, any road can take you there. I think this was a quote from one of my leaders, and I think it's from one of the, I don't know from which film or movie it is, but it stuck into my head. You need to know what you want to achieve, and
I
then
love that.
intentional build one step after the other. And you can change direction intentionally as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Before we wrap up, I'd love to ask you a few of my signature questions that I'm asking all of my podcast guests. The first question, number one, is what's really important to you in your career and your leadership journey? It's a very personal question.
Yeah, my goal is to help people reach their full potential. I've studied human behavior and I have come to the conclusion that we have limitless capacity to achieve what we want. And I
Oh,
really want to encourage the people listening that if you honestly, Napoleon Hill said it many years ago, if you can conceive it, you can achieve it. And it's true. So, to reach your full potential is my major goal at this point in my life.
that's really opening your mind, isn't it, when you think like this? What makes you happy in your professional life?
Serving and coaching others. So very much along the lines of the first bullet. And as I encourage people to reach for the stars, I don't know that I realized it as I was climbing the corporate ladder, but the higher you go in your career, uh, the more you have the ability to really help people to achieve their potential and to achieve things they didn't always know they could achieve. And that's quite a gift to
Mm,
be able to participate in somebody else's life.
I like this. I think I know the answer to the third question, but let me ask you anyhow. How do you define success and fulfillment?
Well, I talked a little bit about helping others, but for me personally, how do I define success and fulfillment? I would say it's by finding balance and just making
Mm,
sure that, and this was true throughout my career, making sure that life gets its fair share of time outside of my career because I really do believe you can balance them. Sometimes work takes 100% and sometimes life takes 100%, but keeping that balance. What are the important birthdays you don't want to miss? What's the important play that you want to go to? How do working out, taking care of yourself, even when life is crazy, how do you fit all those things into the calendar? And I really believe you can have all those things.
yeah, women can have it all, isn't it? I
Well,
believe I'm
you have
a
to put
strong
yourself
believer
on
of
the
this
list.
one.
You can only have it all if you put yourself on the list. But
You need
yeah,
to be on the list, otherwise it doesn't work. And you can always define what the all is for you. If you could change one thing in the world of work, what would it be?
I would remove fear from
Mm.
the thoughts that we have in our head. I just think people would go, they would think so much bigger and go so much farther if they weren't afraid, and if they again told themselves different stories.
I like this. It's again the voice in your head, isn't it?
Mm.
If you were to choose one word, which describes you as a leader, what would you say? What is your word?
I have a hard time coming up with one word. So I would change it to a phrase. So it's cheating a little
Okay.
bit. The phrase that I locked onto with my daughters years ago was, she believed she could, so she did. It's a common phrase. You see it on plaques and on books and socks and all kinds of things. But that phrase means so much to me, because when Mother's Day came around and my daughters were 6 and 9, they started giving me posters that said she believed she could, so she did. And it made me so happy, because that's when I knew, okay, they get it. They understand, if they want to achieve it, they can do it. They just
Exactly.
have to get busy.
Get started and then walk in the direction. What advice would you give to women in leadership roles or those aspiring to lead? I think we covered it, but if you really condense it to one sentence, what would the sentence be for women?
Yeah, I would say go for it. And then I would say make sure you are also paying it forward. So for women in leadership,
Mm.
most women that are coming up the ranks want strong mentors, and they want women mentors, which I actually think is a bit of a mistake, because we already said 86 out of 100 people running companies are men, and men do think differently than we do. So you should have male mentors. They changed my life, and they'll change yours too. But for women leaders that are farther up the ladder, make sure you are reaching back to pull another woman up forward and helping them to do what you did. I just think mentors are critical, and we need to pay it forward.
I like this, what you just said about the male mentors. I've been thinking about this as well. I think female role models are important because they are the testimony that it's possible. And then, male mentors can help you to get there, as well. I think you need to have both sides of the medal to
You need to
really
have both.
have.
100%. You need both. Men do think differently than women. And so there's a lot to be learned by having both.
I am fully believer. When people have listened to our talk, and I really enjoy talking to you, Tracey, I think I can do this every every day. Um, what powerful mindset shift do you hope that people or women walk away with after our conversation today?
Yeah, so I think the world truly is yours for the taking, and I said the world because your career is part of that. But I really believe that women have limitless potential. So I would encourage you to just step into all that's capable and step into your full potential, because there'll be no stopping you.
Like it. I really enjoyed our talk today, Tracey. Your book, Hers for the Taking, it's published. When was it published? Was it this year?
It comes out in March 25th. So I was able to squeeze it into March for International Women's Month. And yeah, so it's coming out soon in just a few weeks. You can pre-order the book on Amazon, and you can also follow me. It's tracy-newell.com if you want to go to my website and learn more.
Perfect. I will put both links in the show notes. And if you loved today's episode, screenshot it, tag us on LinkedIn, and buy the book. It's really, I had a copy already because I asked Tracy if I could have a pre-read before we went into the talk. I really enjoyed it. It's practical strategies for every woman, wherever they are in their career. It's not, for beginners or when you're there. There's a nugget, a gold nugget for all of us in our careers. So thanks for tuning in, and thanks, Tracy, for giving us the opportunity to interview you. And now let's go out there and take our careers to the next level. I think you inspired us a lot. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. I so appreciate it.
Take care. Ciao. Bye. Thanks for joining me today. If you found this episode helpful, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an update. For more inspiration and leadership tips, follow me on LinkedIn. You'll find the link in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe so you can stay on track with every new episode. Let's continue this journey of growth together. You've got this. I'm Katharina Engelhardt, the host of the You Got This podcast.